Happy spring. I want to talk about vigilance today. I thought that was a perfect Saturday spring topic. And, 2026 is about new leaders coming into the space, all of us having a leadership that we're bringing in this year, all of us having a way we're meant to step forward and direct something and be in a new type of leadership. We're seeing like everybody, hey Nikki, we're seeing all the people, that have had authority and power and leadership, and they can't be holding that. And so many people are feeling the call for leadership. And I think as we came into winter, it's been about learning a new level of confidence and understanding how to have the confidence to be seen and embodying a new type of leadership, whatever that looks like for you, because everyone's here to lead in a different way and in a different type of community and a different type of experience. It doesn't have to be one way. And as we're coming into the spring, I see another really big theme. So it's like leadership, and we have to think about what that means in terms of confidence and how to allow ourselves to develop the confidence to be a leader. And then now we're moving into this huge theme, hey Suzanne, that I've seen all week. I want to share some really interesting stories that happened to myself personally, and also in with my Dark Times Brings Light group, my book club and coaching circle, and also with my private clients. And oh man, I've just had such an interesting week around the idea of vigilance. And I also think we're in our society right now, there's a huge broadcast about being vigilant. There are many things being shared and discussed and broadcast in a way where so many people do feel so vigilant right now. So as I go into that, I think first I want to just make sure we're all on the same page and you understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about vigilance. So what I mean by vigilance is feeling very self-protected. Hey Zoe, feeling, when I'm talking about vigilance, I'm talking about head on a swivel, trying, very self-protective, not really trusting the environment, not really being open, right? Like closed, tight, protected, very aware, not expecting the environment to be able to keep you safe. And the truth is like we need to have vigilance sometimes. It's actually reckless to not know how to be in touch with vigilance. And all of us have had experiences and trauma and situations that we've been in our environment and in the world that would have made us feel vigilant, where the environment didn't protect us, where we didn't feel like anyone had us, like where we did have to close. But I started to think a lot about vigilance in this way. So, hey, how you doing? So I've always kind of like, I understand what vigilance is. Most of us do. I've started to think about vigilance much more in the last decade, because when I started to do a lot more work around like sexuality and desire and opening the body and opening your energy so you actually can feel what you want, you can feel what's actually happening in your life, you can feel pleasure, you can feel the grief, like you can feel your life and you can feel what's happening, and you can be open on a somatic level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. Like as I was doing a lot of work around that really for the last 20 years, but like 10 years ago, I was part of this community that really used the word vigilance a lot to explain when we're very cold, when we're very frozen and numb and unable to open to sensation, to physical sensation, to our desire. And that's what happens when we're vigilant. When there's vigilance, typically the body is closed and frozen in some way. We're numb in some way. We're not able to open. And if we're going to have confidence, if we're going to build a new world together right now, if we're going to become leaders, and also just like be here in the Aquarian age and enjoy our life and be open to the life we were born to have, and to just be connected and participating, we have to be open. And vigilance closes us, and it's okay to be closed for a short period of time, but all of us have something typically all of us have something that we're still very vigilant about. That vigilance has never shut off. So sometimes it's something with our body, it's a type of intimacy, it's a type of feeling. There's a way all of us have something that we're vigilant about, not in the short term, like, okay, this is a moment to be closed and self-protected, but we're kind of chronically vigilant in a certain area. And so that is good. We all like, the other thing to like, that we want to learn is what vigilance looks like for us. So vigilance can look like a shut down, numb, frozen physical experience. It can also look like being super defensive. It can be like not allowing connection. It could be self-sabotage, where we don't allow things we really want because we're not sure how to open to have them. I know for me, like what vigilance looks like for me has been over responsibility. And so maybe you relate to that one too. Like vigilance, can, because my vigilance is developed from experiences where I didn't feel like there was anyone else to be responsible in this moment of intensity, or I was in a lot of situations where like nothing could be controlled. It was a crisis. When I'm vigilant about something, it's like I get overly responsible, because when we're also vigilant, like we stop knowing what is ours to do. We stop being creative in these areas because we are closed and we are just trying to stay protected. And I've thought about vigilance. So vigilance is something I've been thinking about a lot for like the last decade. And then I was thinking about it a lot this week because it started on Sunday with my group. So for my winter, I'm doing my Dark Times Bring Light book club and coaching circle every season this year. But for the winter, we're right at the end. We're actually having our final session next week, for the equinox. And the last process we've been in is for people to sort of let go of something. Hey, Perry, to let go and to kind of like let go of something that's kept them from stepping forward in leadership. That was a big part of the winter group, is like feeling this calling to be a leader in a different way in their life and to tell the story of their life in a different way and to understand the story they've lived until now in a different way. And so the process has been like one last thing is falling off. And what it really was like the vigilance people have had around not knowing how to go into that area of their life because they feel guilt or they feel shame or they feel afraid of doing it wrong. Like when they were in a space where they could finally, the way we start to, and we'll talk about that in a minute, like how do we begin to let go of vigilance? As people had a space where they could let down their vigilance, they could finally go all the way into like an emotion or a memory or a part of life that has felt really vulnerable. And instead of closing because they're vigilant in that area, because they felt like they need to protect themselves in that area, they could relax and open, and the process could like move through. And now they have a lot of freedom there. Now they feel ready to have more confidence, to be seen, to offer something they haven't offered before. And so when we start to understand where vigilance is playing out in our life, and we are in an environment that supports the vigilance to come down, then we can like get a lot of freedom. And that's a tough thing right now, because it's like, how do you open your heart in a world that's very heartbreaking? How do you open and allow yourself to feel safe and free when we're living in a world where we're constantly told, remain vigilant and it's only getting worse? Right? And that keeps people from their creativity. That keeps people from being in their leadership. That keeps people from offering what is theirs to offer at this unprecedented time. So yeah, I noticed that in the group. And then I noticed, I'll share just my group and then I'll share my own experience. And then I noticed all of my sessions, hey Beth, through the week really held that flavor. It's like, finally, something that had felt too scary to let anyone in on, too scary to admit, too scary to be vulnerable about, like something finally fell away And it's like they can just be free. Like they're free to actually feel the way they really feel. They're free to admit what they really want. They're free to finally create the book or the business or the project that they came to work with me on in the first place, because now they've found the reason they were actually closed and blocked from doing that. They found the reason they have felt vigilant and unsafe and unable to like let their hair down and be themselves. And it's very hard to succeed when we're not being ourselves. You know, like that's actually where the most prosperity and the most enjoyable prosperity is, when we get to feel abundant and connected and happy, and we know we're really being ourselves. It's not some sort of like performance. It's also a hard time in the world to feel that, right? So a lot of this is like how to be authentic in a world of masking and fakery and stuff, and also like how to feel safe and open at a time that feels like, who do we trust? How do we trust? What are we going to do? But if we constantly stay closed and frozen and in a performance, nothing can move forward. That is not what the calling is for us right now. The calling is on our authenticity, our confidence. There's so many open spots, right? Like the pedestals have crumbled. It's really our time, all of our time, to be who we really are and to contribute. And in order to do that, we do have to feel safe. So how do we begin to do that, right? So first is, how do we get out of vigilance? We first have to get like connected to our body. So there's all different ways to begin to connect, and we'll do a little energetic before we complete here. It's like we have to start getting connected to our body. We have to start feeling safe in our body and in our relationship with ourselves. We have to start to let thoughts and emotions move. So for a lot of people, like obviously talking to someone who can really hold you is great. Creating an experience of being in community where you really feel people are available to hear you and support you is great. And I think also a writing practice is wonderful, to just like start moving the things that are moving through your head and your emotions, and just get into a regular practice of getting it out of the body. We also want to make sure you have what you need. You know, like for me, part of the vigilance I had been in is that this past year, I've been severely anemic and didn't realize that. So I was in this survival mode. My system was in a vigilance and a survival mode because I did not have enough blood, oxygen, and iron, hemoglobin, right? And it was influencing the way I was seeing things. And especially moving to high altitude like this, it was influencing how I was feeling. And then it began to influence the story I was telling. So you want to make sure your body actually has what it's needing, like the rest and the touch and the movement and the breath and the nutrition and the minerals. We have to make sure we have what we need so that physical part, we can be taken out of some of the vigilance, right? Because we actually are safe and open. And, the right environment. So it's like the right physical environment and then the right outer environment. And it's like being in community, being around people, being in relationships where we feel like we can begin to let down the vigilance. Then that means also a space where we don't have to rush or press or have pressure, have urgency. So like open, slower, softer space. That's going to begin to help take us out of vigilance. Just being in a space where you feel welcome, where you feel support, where you feel like there's no deadline, or getting out of vigilance is a slower process. And we're actually right in that process in terms of like winter to spring. Something when you think about somatic vigilance, there's also the idea of de-thawing. So the places in us that have been psychologically or physically frozen, it's like the first step to move from being tight and closed and vigilant into like actually being open and free and being able to take in pleasure and like really be connected to what's happening. That is going to require a thawing out process. So what happens when something goes from solid to liquid, right? Or when the ground has been frozen over and now that's beginning to melt. There's emotion, there's water. You're gonna be clearing some things. You're suddenly like, oh my God, there was like garbage frozen into the grass for the last 5 months that I didn't know about. So we also want to be in an environment where we like let things begin, where we feel safe to let things flow and release, you know? And so maybe not all of your life and your job and your environment is going to feel like a safe space to be moving and flowing and thawing out, but you create these practices with your body, with your spiritual and writing practices, with creating environments where you can be held by someone else or in a community or dance or movement, right? Like you create these spaces in your schedule so that you begin to release the vigilance. And you also start to set boundaries around the conversations you're in and the content you're consuming. And it's not to be bypassing what's going on. So when I'm talking about getting out of vigilance, I'm not saying ignore the world we're in, because I think we're here to participate and lead and very much understand what's going on in the world. People are always shocked by, I kind of know about everything. I was a journalist. I went to journalism school. Like, I am not one of those spiritual guides who like doesn't know or like needs to stay away from things. Like, I'm also an Aquarius. Like, I love a rabbit hole. And so I feel like it is important to really participate and know, but we have to do it and consume in the right way so that we can still hear ourselves and our body, and we're not having a truth that's painted by others. And so some of these things that I'm talking about, this is like a longer game. This is not like, do this in 3 steps today. But I want to give you a few opportunities to think about vigilance, an area that you feel tight, frozen, shut down, where you don't expect other people or the environment to be able to protect you. And notice if there's anything that's kind of chronically like that for you. And then we're going to take some time and space and begin to, the people I'm talking about that I worked with this week who had these big breakthroughs where they're no longer vigilant in an area and they can let life in, pleasure in, money in, connection with other people in. They can like begin, and then when they let that in, they can let out their gift and their offering and their expression for this time on earth. That didn't happen in 24 hours. That's like over the course of months or years, right? Of allowing support in a certain way and allowing connection in a certain way and deciding being here and participating and feeling fulfilled and connected is more important than anything else. And so that's some of the thoughts I'm having. I want to bring us into the energy, but I also want to tell you 2 more things before we do that. I have a lot to say about vigilance because it was just so loud this week, and I really think it's a big part of coming into our confidence and our leadership in 2026, which is the start of this really, really special cycle on the planet. So we're just going to take a breath here, and then I'm just going to give you another piece, and then we'll go into the energy. But just taking a breath here, maybe connecting to your heart and your belly. Letting it feel safe to release a level of vigilance, because in this moment, you are safe. Wherever you're watching this from, in this moment, you can let the body relax. You can trust life to hold this moment with you, that you can let go of some layer of vigilance. And we're just going to let in the idea of being curious, like letting it be interesting where you have vigilance. Letting it be interesting that there's an area you're frozen or shut down or have a keep out sign. That's not wrong. But that's interesting. What's underneath there? You don't have to force your way or invite people you don't want in there, but it's like just time to get soft and curious. Because people who are not controlled by vigilance are the people who get to like play and explore and lead and have big purpose in this world in a way that they enjoy. That's the other part, right? Like actually enjoy it. And so what is the benefit of broadcasting information in a way that keeps people constantly vigilant and celebrating people who are giving you a mask? It really takes a lot of people out of their power. So that's our work this year. And sometimes we have to revisit things that would have made us feel vigilant before to realize how much we've changed. So I'll just give a little personal information here. When I first moved here in the fall, and I was super burnt out, and also I've never lived in like the mountains. You can kind of see behind me, you know, I'm living in Asheville in a mountain town. And I moved here because I was feeling really depleted and I knew I needed to receive and relax. But I didn't know part of what that was I'm anemic and I'm like literally physically depleted. And, you know, it had been a while. Like I've worked through a lot of years of trauma of feeling like I'm the only one, like it's on me. There's been a lot of things in my life because I've had a lot of loss and because I was just in a lot of initiations that were about me and my journey and being there for my family and, you know, different things. I have had a lot of armor and a lot of vigilance. And I moved here to begin to let that go. And when I was first here, I didn't know about like bears. I mean, I knew about them, but I didn't know, you know, the bears are just here. They're walking around Asheville and you can see them. And the neighborhood I live in, it's like off a main road, but also with forest and stuff. So this is an area where you will see bears sometimes. And when I moved here in the fall and I was suddenly having bears come up to this, see this window behind me? This is where I work. Bears would be like coming up here. And it was totally taking me out. I was like feeling terrified. And it was actually this whole amazing initiation of like, I set some boundaries so the bears couldn't come to certain parts of my home. I had like a really amazing experience of like getting very vigilant and afraid and then working through it. But it really did like take me out. Like if I was sitting in here after work, you know, watching a movie or reading a book and a bear came up to the window, it's like, that's it. Like I really can't relax the rest of the night. And I hadn't seen them in a while because the bears have been hibernating. And then this week I was in the middle of a session during the day facing out this way. And I was actually in the middle of talking to someone about her life as a matriarch and being able to follow her path and her creative journey she's having right now as she builds a business. And like, no matter what happens, not letting that desire carry her through and not take her out, even though she has a lot of responsibilities in her life. Literally, as I said that, a mother bear and 3 babies were walking at me at this window. They started walking towards me because I had made a roast lamb and I had windows open. And I don't know, I just like wasn't being vigilant because I wasn't thinking about them. And they smelled that and they're coming out of hibernation. And suddenly I saw them walking at me. And as I said, in the fall, like I had such vigilance, but my body was also in a different place. Now I had some experience seeing bears. I have more of the nutrient and the oxygen that my body's needed. And I was in the middle of a deep process with someone. And so I just stood up and I shut the doors and I shut the window. And then they realized like, oh, okay, like not for us, like not available for us. And they just walked on. And I have one picture of the baby bear that I took before they walked on. And it was like actually such a great experience because it was the first time I had interacted in that way where I saw like, yeah, I set a boundary and they kept moving. I don't need to live in vigilance. If I'm going to live in Asheville and there's going to be bears, I'm not going to live in vigilance with that. I'm going to live in a way where I can allow there to be bears around, you know? And I'm actually glad that happened. It was beautiful. And it was also like symbolic of the waking up. And it also gave me a felt somatic experience of bears aren't attacking me. I don't need to be vigilant. I just need to be aware. I just need to be aware. So that's kind of where we want to switch the track to, is not being reckless or disassociated or disconnected, right? That's not the only other option. It's being connected, tuned in, aware, connected to the body, connected to the environment, paying attention, feeling, right? So it was like, oh yeah, I just know, like, I don't make food and leave the doors and windows open. Like, and I actually haven't seen them since, but it was just like, oh, this is great. And, and the final piece before we just go into a little bit of energy is like, so when we can do that, when we can feel connected and our body is sort of like not in vigilance, but it's aware, and it's like, oh, okay, I got to move that. I got to shut the door. That brings me to the only other piece I want to land with you, which is when we take ourselves out of vigilance and we're open, alive, connected, we know what is ours to do. And in a time where a lot of things can feel overwhelming and senseless, people can end up just kind of numbing out and feeling very powerless and feeling very and there's some of us who are, if we have the opportunity to be alive and well and enjoying our life, to me, I think of that as, I do that in honor of everyone whose current reality does not afford that. Like if our current reality affords us enjoyment and prosperity and well-being, we want to be feeling that. We don't want to be numb to that. And when we're not numb to that, then we can know what is ours to do. We don't have to save the whole world, but there is something that we are here to contribute and be part of saving and be part of protecting and be part of changing. And when we are out of vigilance and open, we'll know what is ours to do. And so all of my sessions this week, all came, that energy of vigilance and releasing it was so strong. Even my very final session of yesterday, the theme was getting out of vigilance. And it was the last one of the week. It was kind of funny because it was like, but that was really the whole theme. And before the session, I had gone to an appointment and I stopped downtown to get my earrings fixed at this jewelry store. And I parked my car and there's this man like screaming and threatening people and, just like threatening to harm this woman that was like next to me on the street. And, he wasn't like, he obviously was like in some sort of crisis. Like, I didn't know how connected he was to reality. And I had left my, I had bear spray and a horn, but I'd left it. And it was like, of course he was right in front of where I needed to go. And he was just kind of like controlling the street and people were freaked out and like walking away. And like this woman was really in freeze and, and it was like in that moment, it was like, okay, like I'm aware of this. Do I go into vigilance? Like, what do I do? And what is mine to do? And like, do I just do what I'm watching other people do? Like some people were kind of just walking by and getting space. And, so, I was just trying to figure out like, what is mine to do here? It definitely brought up my vigilance because I really felt like, wow, this person is like not in reality, they are not in the shared reality with us, and they are threatening really scary things. And I was like, do I call the police? And then I just realized like, that's what I know to do right now. Like this person really does seem dangerous. And so I ended up calling the police and explaining what was going on. And, then I even saw police vehicles sort of driving around and they didn't, I tried to flag them down and they didn't stop. And then I just like went into a store and like the police weren't coming. And then all of a sudden the guy was in front of that store and like screaming and freaking people out. And I like called the police again. And I was just like, where are you guys? Like, I think you really need to come here. Like, it's not clocking for you. Like, this is, I don't know. It really felt like mine to do. Like, actually, we really need someone here to help this guy. And then the police came and, then I walked out and they just were like standing with him and he was just like super emotional, telling them a story. And they were just like, it felt kind of Asheville. It was like they were in a circle around him and they were just listening. And then I got out of vigilance because I was really scared of this. I thought he was going to really hurt someone. I really had that feeling. And I got out of vigilance and I could just like reconnect to his humanity again. And, and I just like was watching the police watch him, and he was telling his story, and they weren't like stopping him or interrupting him. And it was like, I don't know. Then I got in my car and went to do this session that was about vigilance. And yeah, and it was just like, as I left, I was like, wow, like that felt like a moment of leadership, actually. It was like people were running away or disassociating from it. It actually felt like mine to do in that moment. You know, I don't know if there's a bet. I was like, do I call the cops? Do you try to call the not police number? I didn't, you know, but it was like, that was actually mine to do. And so when we step up and we move out of our freeze, then we like can actually connect with participating with our reality and with our community. And we know it is ours to do. So yeah, that's my transmission on vigilance. And, if you are feeling that, if you're like, I feel called to this next level of leadership. I want to be creative. I want to be expressing things. I want to be enjoying my life. I want to be out connecting, and the world feels heartbreaking and it feels dangerous and scary. And like, I don't know what I do here. Then I would love to invite you to Dark Times Bring Light. That's my book club and my coaching circle. It's all about that. It's about the book I created this year, but it's also about just like, knowing what is ours to do and stepping into leadership and having a really safe and connected place to create and to let go of the vigilance and to start becoming really interested and creative and participatory in the world, and really letting life in, even when it's broken our heart. So I'm going to do on March 29th, I'll put a link here. I'm going to do a free group session just about like how to open your heart when the world is so freaking heartbreaking, and how to do that without being in bypass, without being in disconnect, without being in distraction, like how to actually see and feel what's happening in the world, and also like let in the blessings, and also like know what is yours to do and be doing it and enjoy it. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for everyone who's popped in and out. And if you're watching the recording, great to have you here. And before we complete, we're just going to go. We already went into one layer of relaxing and letting go of vigilance, but let's just go into one more layer. So just closing your eyes here. And just inviting a little piece of you. Maybe it's an inner child part of you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like a little piece, but just like this little piece of you that wants to feel strong, but feels like the world and the situations are so big and you feel so small in comparison of them. And just finding that piece that wants to participate, that wants to understand its strength and its power. Connecting to the desire. And just holding there. And just picturing like you're connecting with this little part of yourself that wants more, that wants to have more, that wants to offer more, that wants more for this world, and just feels small compared to the bigness of what's happening. And we're just going to embrace that little part. It doesn't need to be bigger than it is. It just needs to be alive and here. It's like a little spark. We're just going to hold there for a few breaths. And letting that little spark come forward, that little part of you come forward. And it's almost like it's in your hand, and you're just setting the intention of letting this small little spark, this small desire to receive more, to be able to express more. Just allowing it to be bigger. It feels small because it's not been given permission to be bigger yet. It's not actually so much smaller against such a big thing. It's just been kept small. And so we're just going to begin to let this little spark of creation and strength and courage get bigger. Sometimes things happen in our life that it's just like, that better get bigger. And sometimes we're in a world where it's like, hey, that part that wants to participate, that better get bigger. And so just feeling that little part get bigger, picturing it like a blossoming flower. Letting this energy open to life like a big opening flower. And if you're participating in this and letting yourself feel this, then just making the commitment just for today, I'm going to let this stay open. I'm going to let this part of me that it wants to get bigger, that needs to get bigger, this courage, this strength, this desire to step forward in a new way in this world at this time, I'm going to let that get bigger. And just for today, I'm going to pay attention. I'm not going to let that get crushed and frozen and closed. I'm going to stay open. I'm going to notice what environments make that feel like it's harder to stay open. Just for today. Just letting that be the practice. All right. Beautiful. So we'll leave it there, letting that kind of coming back into your heart, knowing we are connected by heart, sending gratitude to the guides, the guardians, the elements, the ancestors, everything that's holding our own higher selves, everything that's holding us and the world in this moment. Okay, look forward to connecting again soon. If you'd like to come to my free class about keeping your heart open to enjoy and offer and participate when times are heartbreaking, that'll be on Sunday, March 29th. And if you're interested in Dark Times Bring Light, because they do, that's my club. It's every season. That starts in April. So I'll have some more information here. All right. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for staying with me for this process. Okay. Bye.